This is the Doron Keidar podcast. Today, I have an incredible guest who is actually from one of the minority groups here in Israel. And the reason why I would like to share his story with you is because, you know, a lot of you are looking at Israel right now and you see the Palestinian-Israel conflict, the war that's going on with Gaza, genocide, Israel is a colonial state, and all these stupid, phrases that you're hearing on college campuses, on the news, on talk show host, armchair experts. But right now, just like I've explained already before, and is in the description for this podcast, is that we're going to have the people who are in the arena. So my dear guest today is Mansor Ashkar. He is a Druze who was raised here in the northern part of Israel, actually very close to my hometown during my teen years. I used to live in Haifa and spent many times going up to his hometown, visiting and whatnot, and eating at the restaurants, and friends from abroad. And it's like, hey, come check out the Druze culture and food, and that is different than what you'll find in Haifa with the Ashkenazi style of food and whatnot, and the high society folks. But in any case, so that is something that we share in common, is that we both grew up and lived in the same area. And like I said, he's from here, he's from Israel, and I would like him to share his story. So Mansor, my brother, please tell the audience here on the podcast here, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you grew up, and why should you be on this podcast?
Well, first of all, I'm honored to be in this podcast, and thank you so much. And I've been following some of your content, from the time you were in Gaza and outside, and stuff that you say. So I'm a big fan, and thank you for having me here. Like you said, I'm an Israeli, born and raised in Israel. My family, from my mother's side, been living for the last 1,000 years, I guess, in Israel. My father's side came from Lebanon and Syria.
So just so if you guys missed that, because he's just saying it like, nonchalant, normal. Oh yeah, my mom's family have lived here for like 1,000 years. 1,000 years, okay?
Yeah.
This is why you're hearing from somebody that has roots in this country. You didn't just fly by night here one night. I mean, right?
No, we've been 1,000 years in this country, the Druze people in this region, even a bit more. And the one thing unique about the Druze is that they're very connected to the land that they live in.
Mm-hmm.
In the Druze religion, maybe we'll sidetrack a little bit about it, but they don't believe in that the Druze should get involved in politics of having their own country, because they believe that this leads to corruption and this leads to like vanity. And they believe that the connection should be between them and God and just be on the land. And hence, for that, they come and say, every government authority is going to be above us. Let them play that country game. We'll support you. We're not an enemy of yours. Just let us live in peace, and we'll let you live in peace. Let us keep working our land. And if you have taxes, we'll pay the taxes. If you have rules, we'll pay the rules. We understand your need. But and for the last 1,000 years, they've been killed, murdered, butchered, and persecuted by the Islam, which wanted basically to extinct them, because they saw them as kuffar, because they believed in reincarnation. They believed that there's prophets reincarnating as well, because the Jews took religions from all religions and said each religion speaks in its own way about God through its own prophets, but it's the same God in the end. But they also believed in reincarnation.
So basically, to oversimplify the Druze faith, which is a secret faith to the most part, it's basically
anything I'm sharing right now is approved.
Yeah. So it's basically a philosophical, I like to put it, like you guys are very much philosophical, if you will, but you still have very Middle Eastern outlooks, worldviews. You're very traditional. You speak Arabic.
We came out of the Islam. We came out of Shia group of the Islam. And
but another thing that you pointed out that I think is very obvious to anyone who knows Druze people is, like you said, is also that the Druze are very connected to the land. And what does that mean? I'll explain, like from my perspective, watching the Druze and noticing things that I'm like, wow, I wish we were more like that. Israelis, normal Israelis. So if you go to a Druze home, a typical Druze home, and they serve you tea, they're not going to serve you tea in a like the little tea packet and go, oh, would you like this flavor, that flavor, right? They're like grandma just came, went and brought some branches, some all kinds of things from nature, and it's like, tree barks and whatever. I mean, all kinds of things that they're like, oh yeah, this is healthy for you. And it's like, I'm like, wow, I never knew that. Like for me, right? Because I'm like, wow, really? I grew up with a lot of Moroccans, and so we have a little bit of similarity. But like the Druze, I know it's like they take that to the next level
Yeah.
with living off the land. I mean, you guys really can teach a lot of people here in Israel what it's like to live off the land, which I know is a big deal in a lot of places in North America, and people that are interested in going back to more their tribal roots, so to speak. And that's
Yeah.
something that the Druze people, I notice you have that in your DNA.
Yeah. When I grew up,
Is that a
after
good
I
way to
left,
explain it?
that was an excellent explanation.
Yeah.
Because when I left the village, I remember, and I started going with my friends to restaurants, and they'd be like, they have great olives here, and I'll taste like, I mean, that's considered to them, it's great. I understand that. But I grew up eating olives from the olive tree that my aunt or my cousin or me with my grandfather, we made, and we did them. Same with
Exactly.
cucumber. Same with the
Exactly.
bread. Same with the eggs, but with the chicken. We used to get the eggs straight from the chicken, the milk from the. So for us, it was always very, very organic, very, very straight from the farm to the mouth, kind of
Yeah.
the hyssop, the za'atar, everything. The bread was made home. And when a guest comes, we'll give him tea from our garden and olives from my cousin's garden or tomatoes, So it was very, for us, it was normal. But then when I got into like places like Tel Aviv and other cities, they're like, it's the expensive place. Oh, they get it all fresh. I'm like, what? That's like poor man food in where we come from.
Exactly.
And it's not even as fresh. But yeah,
Exactly.
they're very connected to the land.
And I
And
love that,
then,
by the way. I love that.
and yeah, I'm appreciating it now when I live in cities, the importance of it. But anyway, so for 1,000 years, they've been struggling for their life. And that's why they became farmers on one hand and fighters on the other hand. So they'll have a pick, and a sword, basically, and they grew the land and defend themselves. And they ran away all to the mountains areas because they went in Egypt, got persecuted by the Khalifa, and had to run. So they went to northern Israel, Lebanon, Syria, living in the mountains, hiding and trying to survive the genocide attempt by the Muslims, basically.
Right. And the
And
Muslims actually gave you a special name. Like we're a kofir, right?
yeah,
like your normal kofir, or however Americans say it, or Europeans. But the Druze even have a special label by the Muslims.
which one is that? We have a mini.
Yeah, well, I forget the exact term, but it's like something worse. Like you're even worse
We're
than a
considered
kofir,
worse. Yeah, we're considered
right?
worse.
Yeah.
A
And
lot
so
of times they see us as Islam is a very violent in its root, bloodthirsty religion. It started with the sword. It started with fighting. So all of us leaders are warlords. You look at the leaders of Christianity, they were all basically called them pacifists, kind of, in a way. They
right.
were very, very turn your other cheek, love your neighbors. They were
Yeah.
manly. They were strong. They were willing to stand and fight for what they believed. Jesus went and whipped up everybody in the temple and flipped the tables. He was a fighter.
Right.
But they did not promote killing or murdering. The leaders of Islam, basically every one of them was a warlord who beheaded, killed, married young girls, and all kind of terrible stuff, rapes and I don't know what. And this is just literally not even translating the Quran. This is like the beginning of that religion. So the Druze had to fight for that to survive. And then
To cut
when
away
they
from that, basically, right?
cut away from that and also to survive because they were trying to kill them because they were considered kuffar because in the Islam, anyone who is a Muslim, you cannot stop being a Muslim. And if you leave Islam, you should be killed.
Right.
And also in the Quran, anyone who says that there's other prophets after Muhammad is a kuffar as well, kafir. So you need to kill him. So the Druze got like these two checkbox. So like double kill them.
Yeah.
So they had to run and fight. And then when the Jews came to the land, the Druze and the Jews kind of, oh, wait a second, who are you? Who are you? Kind of probed each other. There was a little bit collisions. But then they realized, you know what? We're actually not that different. And we're both here trying to live peacefully. And the enemy of my enemy is my friend. You can come and say, they want to kill you, they want to kill me, let's be together.
Yeah.
And that's when they hooked. I have a crazy story about that because, it helps debunk all these lies that you hear. My grandfather, who came from Syria to Israel, and he went back to Lebanon, found his wife, came back to Israel with her. His two older brothers were in Israel with him. That's before Israel was formed as a nation. We're talking before the Jews came back. No, there were the Jews living here all the time, but before, 48.
Before 48, yeah.
Yeah. And then at around 48, his brothers came and told him, listen, man, all the Muslims are saying that they're going to come and kill all the Jews from the river to the sea, just annihilate all of them. We have families and kids. Let's not stay here. Let's go back to Syria. They told us, go back to where you are, come back after a few days. And my grandfather told his brothers, I'm not leaving. I understand if you guys want to leave because you have children, wives, and etc. Go. I'm staying here. It's my life. It's my job. I started a career here. I just bought a bus. And he stayed there. And then the war started. And he joined the IDF and he joined the Israelis, started fighting. And after they did that, the borders were established. And his brothers were stuck in Syria. And he was in Israel. And that was the last time that he saw them. Two brothers in Syria, one brother in Israel. But that just shows you, the people who grew up here know who was the real enemy, know who really tried to do a genocide from the beginning. The Jews came here peacefully, and they came here respectfully. And the Druze is the best example for that, because the Druze are Arabs as well. And Jews came, Arab came, oh, you want to live in peace? Why not? I respect you, respect me. And if you look today in the Jewish street, the Druze are one of the most loved people in Israel. You go to a Druze village, you have more Israeli flag and Druze flag than in a Jewish city. They see themselves so identified with the nation of Israel because it's a great country for Arabs who want to live here peacefully. But the ones who don't and been trying to kill the Jews and do a genocide, and the only reason they're like playing the victim card now is because they failed. These are not your friends. These are not the good guys. So anyway, I was born in Israel. I kind of sidetracked there. Into a very traditional Druze family. My grandfather was a high general in the army. My whole family was farmers, workers, and they served their country. My mom is called Medina after the Medina, the nation of Israel, because my grandfather said, we've been here for the last 1,000 years. This is our country, just like it's yours. So we're together.
That's cool.
And grew up in a very, very respectful, loving, law-abiding family. As a teenager, I kind of moved to Eilat, to a Jewish city. That's where I got exposed to a lot of the Christians and the Jews. Started loving all religions, and like I told you in the beginning, I was thinking that I want to be a pacifist, kind of. And I was very I liked bow and arrows and swords and dragons as a kid, and I would like do camps on trees and all fight in the neighborhood with other kids, but I didn't want to kill anyone. I said I'd never want to be holding a weapon to kill. But then I realized that that's being a pacifist in the Middle East. It's a game that you can play only when you live in Switzerland or Denmark. That's not something that you can allow yourself. And if I want to enjoy this country, the freedom that it gives me as an Arab also, and in general as a liberal, open-minded person, call it, I'm doing that because there's other soldiers that are willing to sacrifice and stand in the front line and give up their life. So my turn is going to come. I'm going to have to do it. So I joined, and I was supposed to go to the fighter pilot program, but I wanted special forces. I was young and stupid, could have been a pilot now. And I went to the special forces. I did several years there, became an officer. I served in Gaza, deep inside Gaza. Before the disengagement, I got to see it from inside out. And I actually served in all of the borders in Israel. And towards the end of my service, I was in a hostage rescue unit and as a commander there. And then I became a negotiator. And that's when I also started studying in university the history of religion, focused on Islam, Judaism, Christianity. And I majored in psychology, basically to see how many psychos live in the Middle East, you can call it. But I wanted to know this culture very well. And I know religion has such a great impact on our society, even if you're atheist or not. Agreed it or not, we grew up under a very religious Europe, Christian, Middle East, Muslims, different groups, Judaism.
Hmm.
So I studied that. Um, and then after a while, I got a little bit fed up. Was in quite a lot of intense combat situations. I've been to many, many. I've done great things in the army. I'm very proud of what I did. We saved a lot of lives from both sides, Palestinians and Israelis.
Hmm.
But I said there's more to life than just that. So I went and started working at a job that my friend was offering me in Royal Caribbeans, traveling the world, island to island, drinking coconuts, and just enjoying, canoeing and hammocks. And
That's
before,
that right there, this is what a lot of people don't understand. There's we served more or less in the same time period, I believe. And when you were in the Gaza Strip before the pullout, the
yeah,
disengagement, I also served in the battalion that was in charge of the whole area,
wow,
Givati. So,
yeah, worked a lot with them.
mhm. And so that was like we were the main battalion kind of in charge of the Gaza Strip and all the operations going on there and all the other units that were operating in the strip.
We can
Um,
see the difference when Givati was there and when Golani was there,
yeah,
big time. Because
yeah,
Golani was used to the north. They were not used to the sand dunes of Gaza. And
exactly.
Golani will get there, they'll always get stuck in the rain. They'll always get stuck. We'll have to go and rescue them. Givati got their shit together. They knew the area, the terrain, and they knew that this is not boulders. This is dunes and sand and desert.
So exactly. So I mean, again, I mean, our advantage was that we are the southern desert unit, as far as our training. So for sure that gave us an advantage. But more or less, it's also the same kind of mindset of people
Mm-hmm.
in many ways. And but in any case, though that time period was very intense, a lot of intense fighting. I lost a good commander in one of the operations that we had, or not an operation. We came under attack, and he went to try to intercept the terrorist that was trying to kill civilians driving on the Kisufim road into back and forth there. And so he tried to intercept with his commander and got shot down. So a bunch of different missions that we had done and whatnot. But, something that people don't think about, which is what you're saying here, is you're like, all right, I'm done with this. Coconuts, Hawaii, trees,
Yeah.
beach, whatever. Like, I need a complete change of atmosphere. And that's something we would actually joke about during that time period is we would say on the radio, we'd say Thailand, right? Like mission's over. And also referring to and alluding to when my military service is over, I'm going to go to Thailand, right? I mean, that was the thing at the time. And again, in every rotation, every year, you have different places. So some want to do South America, backpacking. Some want to go to Europe. Some want to go to New Zealand because they saw Lord of the Rings or whatever. Like you know what I mean? It's like every generation has their, when I'm done with this
After the army
crap,
trip.
you know, I want to get out of here and get as far away from all of this death and fighting and chaos and pressure. And I think that's important for people to understand that you're not unique in that. I mean, like
Yeah.
all of
Yeah.
us,
For
all of
Israel.
us, yeah,
Yeah.
all of us, when our time was done fighting, and you'd count the days and the minutes towards the very end, you're like, man, I need to get out of here and find a place to just recharge. And so that's cool so this is where you found your trajectory into where you ended up today in life,
Yeah.
starting with.
Yeah. I wanted to, I told you I was after intercepting a big Iranian special forces attack that happened on Israel. They brought like 19 of the special forces along with Hamas to kidnap and kill and murder Israelis. A Yamam sniper, a very famous one, got killed in that operation.
Mhm.
And after chasing them and taking them down, I remember because I just came back from a hike in the Alps with an Israeli guy that is probably the smartest guy I've ever met in my life. He's in a very special unit in the IDF. that makes inventions, and they
Mm-hmm.
win an award every year. I'm relatively, an above average intelligence. I got accepted to be a fighter pilot, and like, so I see myself as an above. I felt stupid next to him. I felt like I was slow. My brain was slow. He was just so many steps ahead. We
Yeah.
were hiking the Alps and going to drink Jägermeister tea from one, and looking at flowers, because he was also studying botanical flowers and I don't know what.
Yeah.
And when I landed in Israel, a day after I landed, I got called to this operation to rescue these citizens. And I remember I was running up the mountain to reach a spot that we can cover for the other forces as they're advancing, because we knew that there is a vehicle right now with a husband that died and a woman, and it flipped over. And actually, my friends got them just before they reached to the woman to kidnap her. They took them down.
Mm-hmm.
So as I was going up, I remember I saw, sorry for the gore, you can take that down later on, but I saw a head of a terrorist that blew up himself. He was a suicide guy.
Mm-hmm.
And there was like crows hovering around it. And my lungs were burning from running up the hill. And I remember, like, I was like, deja vu. I feel like I just had the same feeling a few days ago of the lungs burning. I was like, damn. A few days ago, my lungs were burning because I was climbing the Alps to pick flowers, put them in a diary so I can dry them. Now my lungs are burning to go and I see a head of a terrorist here. Now, I
Yeah.
slept like a baby. I was never traumatized from the service that I did. I really believed in the importance of doing that, protecting, you
Mm-hmm.
know, defending my country, the innocent, and saving lives. But after that, I said, you know what? I had enough chasing Ahmeds and Yusufs in the desert. I think I want to go and try other things in life. And there is other things in life. I want to try
Yeah.
cinema, I want to try traveling. And that's when I went to the Caribbean and I loved it. But I got called back right after October 7 because I realized that my voice is important as an Israeli Arab. And I knew how much I already saw ahead the lies and the propaganda that's going to come now, trying to portray Israel as a genocidal country, as an apartheid, and as a place that is bad for anyone who's not Jew, especially Arabs, which is a lie. Israel is the best country in the Middle East for
Yeah.
Arabs. End of story. I'm telling you, as someone who lived there, have Arab
Wait,
friends.
wait. So are you telling me that Tucker Carlson, who interviewed a priest from Bethlehem, he's full of crap?
I haven't seen that interview, but if he said, it's
Because,
probably.
okay, sorry. I thought you heard about this. This to me was like, wow. So basically the guy who's the head of the Bethlehem Theological Seminary, I forget exactly the full name, that hosts the Christ at the Checkpoint conventions, very oftenly. Now just think about the concept here. It's called Christ at the Checkpoint.
Which
Like,
was a
what
Jew.
is, yeah, yeah. What is your spin here? What's your message? And so these guys are the ones who have given birth to Christian Palestinianism, uh, uh, basically claiming that Jesus was a Palestinian,
Oh,
his
wow.
followers were Palestinian. Yeah. And if Jesus were alive today and Christ at the checkpoint, ended up at a checkpoint, he would be stopped and he would be searched and body checked, by IDF, bad IDF soldiers, and have this horrible experience, right? That's what
Yeah.
they're trying to spin. And this is who Tucker Carlson ends up interviewing about how the Christians in the Middle East, or sorry, in Israel, are suffering. And yeah. And I was like, wow, I can't believe this. And so it just so happens to be that I've been following this particular movement in Bethlehem, and I can't go and protest there myself, right? I can't go either protest or even have a dialogue and say, hey, you're saying
The
that,
kidnapped or lynched if you go there.
yeah, you're saying Jesus was a Palestinian, all this. I would like to argue and say, actually, he was Jewish, first of
He
all.
said it himself.
you know but if you're saying now that, however you guys want to theologically argue this, like, let's have an actual debate, like for real. And the only person, and so I can't go in there and you can't go in there as an Israeli, right? We can't go into Bethlehem. So the irony here, they're talking about apartheid, but I can't go into Bethlehem, but he can come into Israel.
Oh, yeah.
This pastor can come into Israel, right? Because Bethlehem, by the way, is under Palestinian occupation. by the way, with big red signs saying no entry to Israelis, not Jews, to Israelis. Any case, I'm going on a little bit of a rabbit trail here, because what you're saying is very contrary to the new hype of what Tucker Carlson just went out with this interview a few days ago. And people are watching. Yeah, they're watching this. And I was actually going to combat this. But since you haven't seen it, I don't want to put you on the spot on that. But what you can say as a Druze Israeli who knows the Arab community, and you also know the Christian Arab minorities here and the Bedouin minorities and so on, you're a minority. You can explain from yourself, that that perspective, which I think just completely can decimate this nonsense that's being
it's nonsense. Right. It's nonsense, right, left, and center. Israel is the best place in the Middle East for any minority group, 100%. Muslims, Christians, Arab, Buddhists, Hindus, whatever, you name it. There is something quite bizarre about the Christian Arab community, which faith-wise, they're much closer to the Jews. But identity-wise, many of them, I won't say all of them, I have great Christian friends that actually, hold very dearly, their Israeli values, are getting closer to the Palestinians, which is completely opposing to them. Under Palestinian rule, if Sharia law is implemented, they will have to convert or die, or pay extreme heavy taxes. They will not be able, this is the Quran, they will not be able to build a new church. They can't ride a horse, can't hold a sword. There's like a lot of rules about how to make their life very difficult until they convert. The Quran basically, the Old Testament, the New Testament, they kind of complete each other. The ideas of Christians mostly, but they complete each other. They're very built. Islam basically rewrote history back to make it make sense. They come and say that, they spoke about Muhammad all over there, but they didn't. Muhammad was never mentioned in the Old and New Testament because they were before him. So that is just a bunch of mumbo jumbo nonsense. If you look at the Israeli Christian Arab community in Israel, it's the most educated and one of the richest communities in Israel. And one of the reasons
in the Middle East, actually.
Yeah, or the Middle East. And one of the reasons for that, and one of the reasons for that, for sure, and one of the reasons for that is because they enjoy all the benefits and not all the obligations as Israelis.
Oh, wow.
They don't have to go to...
You didn't just go there. You didn't just go there.
Oh, I did. The Druze, we have all the rights and obligations. Like the Jews, we're the only group that have all of it. We have to serve.
So what he's saying here is, and this is important for people to understand, is that he's a minority, and we have a lot of minorities in Israel. It's not just a Jewish state, but it's the Druze that have made a blood pact with the state of Israel through the leadership of the Druze community. They came together and said, our community, our people are one and the same with the Jewish nation. And when it comes to obligatory military service, that's the same on us. In fact, the Druze have a higher recruitment rate of the community that serves, of any community, even the Jewish community, they have a higher recruitment rate for the military, if I'm not mistaken.
For the military and for also the dangerous combat units, you'd say much higher than any other community. I mean,
then and that's just to understand. And whereas Christian Arabs in Israel, they do not have an obligation. They have Israeli ID cards. They have all the benefits of living in the state of Israel, job-wise, taxes, and benefits and whatnot. But you don't have to serve in the military, right?
Go to a Christian Arab in Israel. Tell him right now, choose Israel, live in Israel as an Israeli, or go live in Palestine or in Egypt. Most of them, if not 100% of them, will tell you Israel. Because here I get free education, they get scholarships. I studied university for free almost, because they got a scholarship for minority groups, for Arabs, for Druze. They get their education for free. They start studying university at the age of 17, 18. They finish at the age of 21, he's already a dentist. At the age of 23, I only got out of Gaza. All rugged, up, battered. surprised that I'm even alive.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then I went to rewind myself and travel the world to clean my head, South America, hiking, came back,
Yeah.
started studying at the age of 26, 7. That's quite a normal. But at the age of 26, 7, they already have a full career. Now, they have the freedom of religion completely. They have the freedom to criticize the government completely. Go ask that priest if he would dare walk in the streets of Ramallah or Gaza and say, actually, I don't agree with Muhammad or Hamas. What's going to happen to him? He's going to be dead.
Exactly.
He's going to be
Exactly.
lynched. He's going to be thrown from rooftops, and his family is going to be murdered. So,
Yeah.
hearing that tells me about this guy. Never met him. Tell me that
Right.
either he's just delusional or useful idiot, or that he is really trying to help the bad guys take over.
Yeah.
There's no middle ground. You're
Yeah.
either with the bad guys because you believe in what they're doing, or you're just delusional and you just really have no idea. But then you need to be stupid. I'm sorry to say that.
So
So
I'm happy to hear someone like you say that, because if I say it, then people say, oh, he's Jewish, he's a Zionist, he's a, right? So I have all these checks against me. And here you are as a minority in the state of Israel, and you just debunked what, what I know to be true. But again, if I say it, then people, like, again, they just say, oh, he's just peddling that colonialist propaganda. And you know what ticks me off with that kind of stupid statement? I'm white. I mean, as far as a Caucasian male, clearly with my accent, you might think, oh, he grew up in America. I didn't. Born and raised, born in Eilat, where you ended up,
really,
yeah, and grew up in Kiryat Shmona with Moroccan, Iraqi, Cherkess, whatever Jews, right? Like,
great English.
yeah. And so I grew up basically getting my butt kicked because I was the only white guy. So when people
Yeah,
talk about white privilege, I laugh and I go, oh, tell me all about it, because that's why I became a defender, because I had to learn to fight for myself, because
yeah,
I was always the minority.
yeah.
Um, you know,
Ashkenazim was a minority in my neighborhood as well. They used to get beat up all the time.
thank you. And so what I am
Especially in Eilat.
and what I see myself is just as a Middle Easterner as any other Middle Easterner. I just happen to be able to speak with an American accent because my family did come from the United States. We didn't grow up here and have 1,000-year lineage here,
Mhm.
like other people that have been living here. So any case, just to point that out, I think it's important that people understand, don't judge a book by its cover. Don't look at me and or my accent or what have you, and just say, this guy, it's actually, you're the one who's in Europe or North America on these college campuses, or Tucker Carlson, who seem to think you know so much about the world that we both live in and have grown up in. And it's like, with all due respect, we're the man in the arena, okay? We're the
Yeah.
man living it out, just like you explained. And I want you to continue with that, with how you ended up continuing uh, your journey from leaving that military background and going on these cruises, and then what's the next stage in your life?
So
We put this whole like this nonsense about minority rights and privileges here in the land of Israel and whatnot.
yeah, that's completely nuts. And I'm getting fed up of people who had no skin in the game, have no idea, and who come and don't listen to the real Israelis that live
Yeah,
there, the Jews, Arabs, Christians, who keep telling them, they silence our voice. They silence the voice of Arabs who are trying to tell them, we want to live with the Jews. They're treating us well. We treat them well. There's a lot of things to work on. They silence these voices, and then they amplify voices of just liars and deceitful people.
yeah, that's a
Um,
good way to put it. Yeah.
yeah. Regarding so after my military service, I further to enrich my knowledge about the Middle East, I went and I hiked all of Israel. I did the Israel Trail and I added parts to it. So I walked like 1,300 kilometers. It's 900, and I walked 1,300 kilometers with a backpack. And I took the Bible, the Christian and the Jewish Bible on one hand, and I took the
Mm-hmm.
book of history on the other hand, and I marked places where I wanted to read it, where it happened,
Mm-hmm.
and just to get the idea to know better. So that's why when I had this talk one time with the guys of interviewing a lot of influencers. speaking about the Middle East, and he was doing his document. He's doing his doctorates for universities. So we had like a set of 20 questions. And when he asked, he talked to like way bigger influencers than me. I was like the small fish there. But after the conversation with me, he told me like, "Whoa, man, I think you're the only one that actually knows what he's talking about." From a lot of these guys are just, either musicians, celebrities that started speaking bravely on behalf of Israel, but they didn't study it or come from it. You actually academically studied it. You walked it by foot. Your family's there for 1,000 years. You were in the army as an officer in all of the borders. You studied all these religions. Studied
Yeah.
so actually, you know what you're talking about. And I come in and say,
Legit.
yes, it's
Legit.
surprisingly, yeah, surprisingly, people don't want to listen. A lot of
Yeah.
these woke people, they just want to rather listen to a TikTok 17 years old curly hair guy that looks like a sheep rather than listen to a Middle Eastern. It's coming from.
And that's the sad reality. And that's where people are getting their information from. They're getting it from like you said, TikTok or YouTube. And I tell people, like, listen, for this podcast, I am open for criticism. Write in the comment section. Tell me where I'm wrong. Correct me. I am open for that. I'm open for debate, right?
Yeah.
We're doing that right now.
Yeah.
We're not like BFFs and, you owe me to make me look good and I owe you to like, what I mean? Like you have on all these influencers, right? They're all making each other look good. And it's like, do I have the right angle and the right lighting? It's like, who cares?
I don't look good
Like,
90% of the time, man. So who
what
cares?
what about the content? Like, do you know what you're talking about?
Yeah.
And that's why, again, I could have picked anybody to have on this podcast. And for me, when I was watching what you were putting out, I was like, dude, this guy, he's nailing it. I mean, he is nailing it. He is, hitting all those marks that all these useful idiots, if you like, but on both
Yeah.
sides, we have our
Yeah.
useful idiots that are, the pro-Israel ones, and we have the anti-Israel useful idiots. We,
Mhm.
with all due respect, we have on both sides people who don't know what they're talking about, but they're very passionate to support the cause, whatever it may be.
When you're
But
following an ideology blindly, you become
yeah,
a very easy target to become a useful idiot for the people who oppose you because they will use the ignorant thing that you're saying
yeah,
against you. And that's the whole idea of useful idiots. Many of them actually have okay intentions, good intentions. They just
right,
blindly following some kind of a lie or an
yeah,
ideology that has a lot of holes in it. So yeah,
exactly. So then you ended up taking on the social media war when you saw that the war broke out here in Israel and you were told by your unit that, you know, now's
yeah.
not a good time to be joining in. And so tell me what you felt when you saw the footage, when you saw the things coming out, how'd that make you feel? And how did that lead you to take the actions that you took in response to what you saw and what you experienced when you were because you're actually witnessing this war take place, actually not living in Israel at the time,
Yeah.
if I'm understanding correctly.
Yeah, yeah. I was actually sailing the ship from Alaska to Hawaii a week
Wow.
before the war. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
And I'm in the glaciers in Alaska with my drone. And I decided to challenge myself and make a one video YouTube a day while at work because I wanted to leave my job or take a break from it and start doing my own YouTube channel. And I wanted to
Mhm.
see if I'm capable of making one video a day in YouTube, editing, filming everything, 12, 40 minutes, while being a father and giving my attention to my child, which is the most important thing to me in my life right now, the role of fatherhood and leading the next generation that will walk this earth. So I did it for 7 days. I did one video a day, edited it, and I managed to do all my job on the ship, all the responsibilities, obligations, and managing the whole security operation. And
Mhm.
then when I left it, I said, okay, I'm going to start my YouTube channel now. And I'm going to start talking about life, fatherhood, healthy stuff, technology, all the stuff that I like.
Mhm.
I got to Texas from Hawaii, went to sleep at my friend's place. These guys that have the cigar bar, they gave me the hat there. That was the only hat that I had. That's why I wear it all the time. And I stayed at the house of an Israeli Arab named Amir from Israel. I have a family in Palestine. He's a Christian Arab. And I stayed at his house. He's basically, my best friend.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, and woke up in the morning to the videos of the Golani soldiers being executed, girls being executed, people being beheaded, Israeli civilians, Filipino, Germans, just people being lynched in the most horrific way by barbarian, new modern age Nazis, I call them,
Mm.
Hamas and radical Islam.
Yeah.
And I called my unit immediately and they were not answering. And I called again. And what happened is my unit just literally, many of them went with the civilian clothes, just ran straight into the fire and ended up rescuing a whole kibbutz. Four guys against, but think about almost 40, 50 terrorists with pistols were fighting them off until an Apache pilot were able to come and stop them and bravely managed to stop the massacre. And one of them answered me back and said, listen, man, we're too busy right now. If you come, you won't be able to join us. And then I sat there and I said, I got to make something. So I was a little bit concerned career-wise. I have to say that's the selfish part in every human. I said, like, wow, if I start talking now on behalf of Israel Zion, I'm going to contaminate my YouTube, which I wanted to be about fatherhood and traveling, not about politics. And I'm going to probably be canceled and silenced. And I'm going to lose my only chance. This is my one chance that I want to start, I'm 40. I want to start doing this now and I'm going to lose this. I'm going to burn myself. But then I said, you know what? On the days of the Holocaust, when there were Jews sitting in the chamber, gas chamber, and he was trying to scratch his fingers into the wall and to leave a message, he probably thought, my whole family's dead. I'm alone. No one would ever know and hear my voice. And I said, there were brave people during the Holocaust that said, we will be your voice. And they went and they stood for the Jews and they hid them and they stood beside them. And these people are remembered today. And I said, with my kid, and one day he's going to ask me, Abba, when the world was justifying the murdering and raping and killing of Jews all over the world, where were you? And I said, there's no way. I'm going to tell him I stood silent. And I said, F that. I'm going to F these guys up. I'm going to go and I'm going to expose them. I'm going to speak as an Arab, as an Israeli. And if my channel is burned down, let it be. I'll find another job. I'll go live in the woods and build myself a tree house with my kids. I'll be happy. But I will not stand with this happening. And I started speaking. And in this movie Game of Thrones, I don't know if you watched it. There's that scene that Jon Snow is standing and he's alone and he sees the armies coming at him and he says, okay, I'm gonna die. He takes his sword out and he says, I'm gonna go at them. And just before he fights, the allies come from behind him. And that's how I felt in my small personal world. I felt like I'm gonna stand against an ocean of hate here. People that will threaten my family, that will threaten my life, people that will send me death wishes, people that will literally try to kill me because I'm standing with the Jews and against racism. But I said, I'm going to do it. Doesn't matter how much hate I'm going to get. Me and my house, we will stand with the people of Israel because these are our brothers. And the amount of support that I got was so overwhelming. It gave me goosebumps. Like so many people came and just sent great messages. I'm sure you got this yourself as well. Like people who supported and said, thank you for what you're doing, especially because I'm not Jewish. Thank you for standing with us. It's giving me hope to see that not the whole world hates us, that we're not alone. And that gave me more power to keep doing that. So that's
awesome. Dude, that is awesome. That is such a cool story. Yeah, I mean, for me, it was a different experience altogether. The same day of the attack, I get a bunch of messages on my phone that wakes me up with rockets waking me up. And within a few minutes, I got my gear on. I'm putting my family into the bomb shelter and kissing them goodbye and going straight to like your friends, straight to take action. And then when the military ground operations were halted, right? It took about 2 weeks till we finally got the green light to go in. Within that time period, I was like, dude, like we were all crawling the walls, so to speak, from frustration of let us do our job already.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of your friends that you spoke to had that similar experience. And during that time period, I just went all out on the social media on every moment I had down. So like mornings, nights, like the guys were telling me, dude, you need to get some sleep. I'm like, you don't understand. Like there are people that are viciously attacking us on social media, and we can walk away from this war winning, but yet losing
Yeah.
the world opinion, so to speak. I don't care about world opinion, but I know what it's like when I meet veterans from like Vietnam, for example, versus veterans who fought in Desert Storm or veterans who fought in Afghanistan, Iraq on the war and terror in the past 20 years. Those guys have a very like, patriotic, 9/11 happened. I went and I joined, Navy and became a Navy SEAL. I became a Green Beret, or I just fought in the Army. We went to go get back and whatever, right? And there's this
Yeah.
sense of like achievement and patriotism. But you talk to a Vietnam vet, it's like, where'd you serve? Oh, Vietnam, and like they got this look of defeatism, and it
Yeah.
ticks me off because I'm like, brother, like you got to be proud for what you did. You fought for your country. But the problem is, then the difference with the Vietnam War is that United States lost the war on the media
Yeah.
perspective and the public opinion when they came home.
Yeah.
And that and what shaped public opinion was the media. The
Yeah.
media that smeared these soldiers as a bunch of baby killers when
Yeah.
nothing could be farther from the truth.
Yeah.
And just like right now, that's what's happening with this war in Gaza, and you're aware of it. The inflating numbers of there's these many killed and half of them children. I'm like, do you guys understand how statistics work? Like
Mhm.
that number you just gave, and the fact that it happens to be half are specifically children, is very interesting. How that just happened to be almost like we're targeting
Mhm.
children or whatnot. So
No, there
and
is targeting children here from us.
yeah.
They
So
want to die because they know that's how they can save their skins. That's how can they survive.
and so
In
any
their head,
case,
in their
yeah,
head, the more children that get killed in this war, the bigger chance that the world will pressure Israel to stop the war. So they planned.
exactly.
They wanted children to die. They wanted them to starve. They wanted them not to have food. They wanted them because they're just using them as a human shield in every field.
As a
You know.
pawn in
So
this ugly game
yeah,
that they're
yeah,
playing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
that's
so so that's what I did too, is I just went, like I said, and most of what I got was not most, but a good number of it was a lot of hate. I've never seen so much vicious hate, wishing my family to all be killed,
yeah,
murdered, and whatever. And I'm just like, okay, like I don't care what, like you can say that all you want. I know what the truth is, baby killer. I haven't killed any babies. I haven't seen any of the soldiers that I serve with kill any babies. But
mm-hmm.
you guys love to throw that label. And where do you get this idea? Why do you think just because I wear a green uniform that I happen to be a baby killer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, any case, and then I was seeing your stuff, come on the feed, and a bunch of other people that I'd connected with throughout the war that were taking the offensive on social media, a lot of new people. And I thought, like, this is awesome. Like, I'm finally feeling like I'm not alone.
Yeah,
And because for many years I've been doing this, and, like in 2004, was it 14? I think, yeah, 2014 and 2019, I believe, was the last rally of rockets coming into Israel from Gaza. And I remember I just put on my body armor, went to the front lines there, and like, people, you all are claiming that we're committing this and that, whatever atrocities. And I'm standing there outside Sderot, and there's big, complex of homes above me over here to my one side, and then Gaza over here, and then rockets firing in, and then I'm filming it exposed, right, to the rocket fire so people can understand, listen, I'm right now, you know, trying to show y'all like these rockets are targeting these people. Like, what don't you understand? You know, and why are you
yeah,
calling our military a bunch of baby killers and whatever? So I remember how important it was to do it back then. And just to see, like I said, a bunch of new people like show up to the to come to the table, like you talked about with the uh Game of Thrones.
yeah. Game of Thrones.
Like you said, it sometimes it's just that one person that will step out and speak out, even though
Rally behind them. Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and that's
You know,
one thing I've seen in this war that has been so exciting to see a lot
mhm.
of new faces. And your voice to me has been one of the most um, inspiring and you know, because I'm like, wow, finally someone from the Druze community who can communicate in a good and understandable English, because that's always the issue. You know, you have great people, but it's like, look, this guy doesn't speak a word of English, barely. So
Some of them don't have or don't have the right, way to present, or just don't know how to do the videos about it, or some of them just don't want to be exposed also. They don't want
yeah.
to be, publicly hated in the world. But you know what? One thing to debunk this whole Free Palestine
Yeah.
lie that has been
Mhm.
taking the world.
Yeah.
You see all these Free Palestine watermelon posters and all that. It's one of the biggest modern lies in history. There's
Yeah.
no need to free them. They're not. Well, when people say free, the people immediately assume that someone is oppressed, and hence there's an oppressor. The oppressor must be the big, richer guy. That must be Israel. So they are the oppressed. First of all, Israel is not the big guy. Israel is the small guy in the whole Middle East. Let's start with that. Second of all, every action got a reaction. That's a law of life, law of physics. I remember as a kid going with my father many times to the port market in Gaza to eat fish. They had great fish, great restaurant, and it was friendly, and they were friendly to us. I remember people from Gaza coming to Israel to work in Israel. I remember us going freely to Ramallah, to Bethlehem, to Nablus, Jericho, and they're coming freely into Israel. So there was a time where the Palestinians were allowed to freely roam Israel and enjoy working in Israel, and vice versa. But
Mhm.
then they started blowing buses. Then the Intifada started. Yasser Arafat came back and polluted their mind with the Muslim Brotherhood. They started blowing themselves and killing. And I remember Zaka picking on a weekly basis body parts of children from trees, from blown buses, from
Yeah.
kindergarten were being blown up, weddings, stabbing, shooting, mass shootings. I don't know what. And Israel said, you can't live like this. People were afraid to go to the street, to go to the coffee shops that were being blown. So Israel started doing checkpoints and started checking males, military age males. And what did the Palestinians start doing? Started sending women. So Israel started
Right.
checking women because women were blowing themselves. And then what they did, they started sending pregnant women and detonate them from far away. So Israel started checking pregnant women. So what they did next, they started sending children. So
Yeah.
Israel started checking children because children were coming and being blown away by some kind of faraway, morally bankrupt, corrupt jihadis. Israel started checking out women, children, men, pregnant women, elderly, and every action had a reaction. After a while, Israel said, enough, and they built a wall. And one side of the wall is peaceful, the other side is full of graffiti and bullet holes, because
Yeah.
they're shooting, and then they make like a Banksy graffiti of like, we want peace, and there's like an RPG hole next to it
Yeah.
because they're
Yeah.
trying
Yeah.
to kill Israelis.
Yeah.
So what happened is every action got a reaction. If they will stop trying to murder Israelis, and if they will be like the Druze, if they'll behave like other Arab ethnicities here, or the
Yeah.
Christian Arabs,
Yeah.
who says, I don't want to kill
What
anyone,
about the
they'll
Cherkessians
great life.
who live
Turkey,
who live
exactly.
peacefully up in the north of Israel, right?
Yeah.
I mean, people don't even know
Some
they even
Bedouins,
exist.
some of the Muslim
But
Bedouins clans here also,
yeah.
they just want to live in peace. And if they start behaving like that, then
Yeah.
there won't be need for these checkpoints and walls and apartheid. So the thing is, the problem is not in Israel. Israel is just reacting to defend itself. The problem is within them. They need to free themselves from the radical Muslim Brotherhood ideology that they have. The moment that they take away UNRWA and other crazy, evil places like that are teaching children from a young age that the way you learn math is by how many Jews can you kill and how many Jews can you stab. And that's the numbers that you get in their math classes. The moment they
Yeah.
stop teaching their children from a young age that they need to kill Jews and that they need to become shaheeds, martyrs, that's when
Yeah.
you have peace. So if you want to free anyone, if you care about the Palestinians and the Middle East, you need to free them from the radical Muslim indoctrination.
Yeah.
I'm
The
not saying you have
brainwashing.
places in the world like Saudi Arabia, who is right now leading the world in having some kind of a transformation in the Islamic teaching that they're teaching. They're
Mm.
giving more rights to women. They're pushing more, and they have a long way to go, but they're pushing more into peace in the Middle East, into peace with Israel, the Abraham Accords, and they're not trying to encourage anyone to take over Europe
Mm.
and and make all Europe Sharia. They're not trying to do that. Most of them, at least. Iran is. A lot of the radicals are trying. So you have places that are starting to de-radicalize their countries to become more fitted to live with Western society. But then you have the ones that are just full-on radicalized. And in a mind-blowing way, they're full-on supported by the American or European extreme left,
Hmm.
which are
Yeah.
groups standing on complete different like values. One is all about LGBT, human rights, no borders. The other one is all about throwing LGBTs from
Yeah.
rooftops, no human rights, and yes, borders. You know, go and kill anyone and make your
Yeah.
own borders and then expand and control the world. So
Yeah.
these two groups are completely different, but somehow they're completely together. You know,
Well,
in these.
you know what unites those two groups that are
I'm always
completely
trying
different?
to what?
It's that both of them have a desire to be anarchist, to destroy society.
Yeah.
But they come about it from two different ways. So the
Hmm.
anarchists from the far left is to destroy male female gender,
Hmm.
to destroy
Sadly,
what is sexually okay and not okay, right? To destroy the family unit, okay?
yeah.
Mommy, daddy, son, you know, to destroy math basics like math, right?
History.
Yeah, history and so on, like rewriting history, rewriting, you know, redoing. Even here in Israel, unfortunately, it happens that in the history books they're omitting a lot of the Zionist characters in the Jewish history because that's something we don't want to promote, is a Zionist spirit or basically patriotism. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to teach my, by the way, we homeschool. And so my kids,
You.
and
I want homeschool.
so
Germany's not though.
I'm telling you, it's a challenge, but we homeschool because I've learned and seen that society, not just in the radical parts of it, but it trickles down to the rest of society because this minority group. So let's talk about, let's say, the homosexual crowd, okay, for
Yeah.
example, and you know there may be, let's say, 5 to 10% of a society, let's say, and these are like to me that those are very generous numbers.
You're being very generous, I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
If you
and
look
so
in
for,
American society, maybe worldwide society, I would say even like less than 1%. But okay.
right, so it's such a small group, yet they are forcing us through their mouthpieces, those that represent them, because I don't think most homosexuals even support the pro-homosexual movement that happens all over the world, the gay
I
pride
have
month.
great homosexual friends who are just down to earth and just
Exactly.
life, you
Exactly.
know.
They just that's their lifestyle and they stick to themselves and they don't
Yeah.
need to parade it. But there's
No.
that the loud minority that is loud and vocal and in your face, and you have to accept this and you have to this, and it's like, really? You have to accept that I'm a heterosexual. And we're going to have a march on that, you know? Like, why, what is your deal? And it's like, no, because we're oppressed. How are you oppressed? How are you oppressed? You live in a free society, and like you said, I have friends that are homosexuals and this and that. I do too, and we
Yeah.
don't have any issues. Okay, and I'm about as conservative as it comes to my values, to what I believe, but that doesn't bar me from turning people out who we can have a normal conversation on. But it's like
Do
they want to make the differences. They want to make us be against each other. And that's what I'm seeing from these radical extreme groups. And they pick their causes, like Black Lives Matter, like the
Mhm.
Palestinian Lives Matter, more than everyone else, right? It's like,
You want
no,
to hear?
human life matter. How about that?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, that
Humanity matters.
everything's political. Everything's political.
Yeah.
You want to hear a funny story where I was sure I'm gonna get like fired from my job, but I said I don't care. I was going to the cafeteria, Starbucks kind of, and
Yeah.
there was like three. There were black, gay singers or dancers, I think, kind of
Mm.
sang a lot. Oh, nice people. I knew them kind of a little bit here and there. And they were just having a conversation about, that was back then, if Donald Trump gets elected, I'm going to leave this country. This is the most evil country. I don't know what. I can't believe what they're doing. And this and that. And then they looked at me and said, like, what do you think, Manny? They call me Manny. You're probably a very, liberal minded person. And I said, what? I said, like, should we leave the country if Donald Trump is elected? And I said, are you guys crazy? You're black, you're gay. You know how many places in the world you'll be executed, thrown, tied to a car, driven, paraded your body in the street? You live in the best country to be a black person and a gay person. America, United States, the best country. You have people here who are gay who are millionaires. You have people here who are black who are millionaires. They have great life. You can voice yourself. So you want to leave best place for these people for being
Right.
any diversity and go, you lost your mind. I come from the Middle East. And they stopped talking to me. They got so angry and offended. Offended by what? By the truth? Well, you know
Yeah.
what? You come to Israel, you were in your face. You asked me a stupid question. I gave you a very, right answer that showed how stupid your question was.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Exactly.
your point is, and I got a very interesting answer from what you said now, speaking to Iranians. I
Mm.
started speaking now to Iranians quite a lot from before already. I actually helped save the life of an Iranian refugee who fled Iran. I can't tell too much about the story, but I helped save his life, and now he's living in Europe, and he is a very open-minded person. But
Mm.
he just asked me right now to not, tell too much information. I respect that, but I
Sure, of
got to
course.
speak to some Iranian people, and they gave me a very interesting insight about this. Because I asked them, how come the left and the radical left, radical Islam, they always come together? And they said clearly, his name is Niak, very, very brave guy. He's almost getting beat up right, left, and center in the UK for standing with a poster saying Hamas are terrorists by the
Oh, I
law.
saw that guy.
So he came
Yeah.
and he said, and I'm gonna make him. I'm gonna share that in my next vlog on YouTube. I think because it was a great video. He came in
Uh,
and said the reason that the left always ties up with the radical left ties up with the radical Islam is because they use each other. And I said,
exactly.
what do you mean? He said, radical Islam needs someone to help them soothe them into democracy, into Western society, make them look like they're not the bad guys, make them look like they're the victims, and make anyone who condemned them to look like he's an Islamophobe and be ashamed and cancel him. And that's
Yeah.
how they use the left. The
Right.
left does the job very good for them. So it
Yeah.
helps them come into your society where they want to take down your society. So I said, okay, I kind of make sense, but why would the left want to help these guys? They stand on whole different levels. And he said, the left want to take down monarchy, they want to take down democracy, they want to take down, modern civilization, and they want to bring chaos in their own way. So what happened is they want to be portrayed as the one that are standing with the immigrants, the weak people, the people that financially are down. So that makes them look like they're virtue signaling the good guys, but also it gets votes. And he said, but this is what happened. That's what the Iranian, several of them said, but that's what happened, Mansor. When they get into power, they kill one another. They
Yep.
cannot rule together. One of them will kill the other and will take over. And that's what happened in Iran. They used each other to get into power, take monarchy down, and then radical Islam killed communists, left, and etc. Kicked them out of the country. And he said they use each other until they take down this country, and then they start fighting with each other.
Yeah.
And I said, that is probably the best explanation that I had to explain to me this bizarre phenomenon. When you go to a pro-Palestine rally in the UK,
Yeah.
you have so many purple-haired, half-shaved, LGBTQ queers for Palestine, I don't know what, very
Where's
liberal people, that you say that they will be the first one killed or silenced. You have so many women
Yeah.
speaking on behalf of, Hamas and Islam. You will not be able to speak over there. You'll
Yeah.
be beat up and tied in a house and forced to just, have sex whenever he demands and bring as many children. And if you dare defy him, he's going to beat you up.
Yeah.
But they're the ones,
Exactly.
that was the
And
best
that's also
explanation.
what we've seen in their homes, by the way.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, into
I
many
won't
of
get
them.
into too many details, but you can tell that where the priority in the home is based on what you find, you know, in the closets and whatnot.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, okay, interesting. Like, what an interesting, lovely couple. It's like, dang.
Oh, yeah.
No, it just, yeah, it boggles me that people don't understand how oppressed, like you pointed out there, in many Muslim cultures that are not reformed. And I think that's important to point out, because I'm not about just bashing Muslims, because I know a lot of good Muslims that are law abiding, that are patriot, that love their country, and you know, they care about prosperity and living in a society where we all respect each other and so on. They're not these radical, you know, we got to destroy everyone and make everyone believe like I do. And you know, so just not to, so people don't misunderstand what we're discussing here when we're
Yeah,
talking either about Islam or talking about certain cultural norms, like in many of these countries, and mainly in the Palestinian communities, where they're very radically have a very radical form of Islam and a very radical form of looking at the family unit, where, like you point out, I mean, the woman, you know, these people talking about how, uh, you know, these people are going to love me, and they're, you know, it's like, no, 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 they don't care about you because you're a woman, and they're
yeah.
going to hate you even more because of your stupid colored hair, and your and that you're, you know, either gay or whatever. Like they're going to hate you even more. Like you have so many things against you right now in their culture. You don't understand. And it's like, no, 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 no. And, you know, and then you ask them, okay, so, and then the other thing I love is when you ask these folks too, because you can tell they're the ultimate useful idiots when they don't even know what they're fighting about. You know, free Palestine from the river to the sea. What river, what sea?
Yeah.
Crickets,
Most
crickets.
idea.
I don't know. I'm not really good in geography. It's like, well, why you make a statement that's rooted in geography and you don't even, you can't even, you know, back up what the heck you're talking about. I mean,
It's a
that's
society problem. You know, modern society now, there's so many people who just want to be special. And the thing is, back when we were kids,
yeah.
if suddenly to my town or your town, someone who's a doctor that is, a female doctor that's living in Africa and is helping, kind of bring medicine and improve the life of a tribe in the jungle, she'd come. All of the people in your village or town say, "Wow, she's a special person. I want to go and hear what she has to say." Or someone who is a big time scientist who invented something. He was a special person, but he
Mm,
worked really hard to become special. And that's what made him special. Now, with today's society, our education system is emphasized that everyone is special. First of all, that's not true. You're not special until you do something special. Otherwise, you're
right.
just like anyone else, which is great. You might be special in the eyes of your mother or the eyes of your friend, but the eyes of the world, they don't wake up and say, okay, let's see, what did Mansor do today? I really want to
Yeah,
know. No, they don't care about
yeah.
Mansor until they do something special. Now, what happened is a lot of these people found a cheat code to become
Mm,
special. They're like, I will support some kind of a cause. And then when I go to this, like Starbucks coffee shop meetings with my friends, they'll tell me, oh, you're such a freedom fighter. Oh, you're such an activist. You're standing for free Palestine. So they're just, it's like, it's like virtue signaling shopping. What should I
mm,
shop now that I would stand for? But they don't understand what's behind it. But they're
mm.
doing that out of selfish motives a lot of time, just to feel special about themselves. You want
Yeah,
to be special? Go and join the army and fight the bad guys. You want to be special? Go in the Middle East and start actually helping women
yeah,
who are being deprived by Muslim culture or by any other culture, poor people. You want to be special? Go and do something special. Invent an invention that will clean the oceans. I don't know, do
yeah.
something that is special. But most of them are too lazy and would never go and do that. But they will sit there and just criticize and go to these demonstrations in New York, stopping the traffic light in
Yeah.
Dallas or New York, I don't know what, preventing American citizens from reaching their homes or their jobs because you want to support the conflict that you have no idea about, is not going to change anything. It's not going to make Hamas give back these hostages. It's not going to make Israel stop the war in Gaza. It's not. It's just going to bother that law-abiding citizen who's trying to reach court because he's a
Exactly.
single dad and he's fighting for his daughter. And that guy is going to come out and beat the crap out of you right now because you're stopping him from going. I completely
Yeah,
understand.
yeah,
So these
yeah,
people are trying
yeah.
to be special. I've seen
It's
in
like,
Berlin cementing their hand to the ground and then stopping the traffic. And then a police officer is coming and tick, 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 trying to take it off. And you see in his eyes, he's in
are
full
you
pain.
kidding me? Are
And
you
I'm like,
kidding?
yeah, several times in
And
Berlin, cement.
it's like that kid from Florida. I forget his name right now, but he makes those really funny videos on Instagram, and then he'll keep, and he, you know, he keeps ending with "get a job, get a job," and that's
Yeah, yeah. I know this
it,
guy. He speaks like an Italian mobster. I like
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And you
cool.
know, it's funny and it's humorous, but really that's the bottom line I've noticed too is because that's my question. I honestly like, you and I both have very similar values that we care about and that we want to fight for. And, we do the daily grind of doing our jobs, like real jobs, because you have to pay
Yeah,
for whatever you're doing and eating and bills and whatnot. I don't have time to go to a protest. I don't
yeah,
have spare time to go, make a big noise on a weekly basis. And when we used to live in Jerusalem in the city, at some point I got, honestly, I got sick of after COVID, I got sick of those kind of people that
yeah,
just week after week, because it's like they made me so how do you say, like just mentally broken down,
yeah,
from like, dude, like you guys are mind numbing. Like, get a job. I want to
yeah.
be like that kid, like get a job. Like, do you have a lot? Like, and that was something that kept going through my head. Or when I would, try to escort my clients from their meetings. And like you said, important big deal meetings. Like we're talking about $1 billion contracts for, very wealthy clients, and you're trying to get them through traffic downtown Tel Aviv to the next meeting and to try to nail that deal that they got to get to. And part of my job in executive protection is not just securing them, but it's making sure they get to their meeting on time, is actually
Yeah.
the logistics parts that is, less sexy for, what people think about when they think about personal.
Probably as important. Yeah, big time.
Yeah. And I'm just like, and I'd run into one protest after another. And I'm just like, dude, do these people have a job? Like we're in the middle of the workday and like they're literally closing down a whole main street, but and like thousands of them. Like where do you guys get the luxury to get in the middle of the work week to just have a day off to do this? You
I
know?
think people appreciate, sometimes understand the struggle that people like me and you in our age and in our life, experience when we were making these videos. The level of we're fathers, we're husbands, or we, shared parenthood or whatever you
Yeah.
say, and we are working full time. I wake up in the morning, I make breakfast for my kid like a lunatic quickly, and then I take him to the kindergarten. He's in forest kindergarten, which is like a cool concept. They're like in the forest, in the snow, in the rain, I don't know what, hiking, navigating with a backpack, sleeping in the hammocks, learning to survive. I want my kid to be able to fight the AI robots when they come to take over the world and build a beacon of radio in a cave and call all humanity if you want to look for it. So I'm training him to be able. So he's in the forest. So I drop in the
That's
forest,
awesome.
and then I cycle like a lunatic into the studio in the snow, and then I have 3 to 4 hours max to video, to edit, to talk, to think about what I'm going to say, to put subtitles. After that, that's it. I can't. And then
Yeah.
I go back and I have side jobs that I'm working right now to support my family because I'm not getting paid for this stuff. And
Yeah.
then I need to come and give dinner for him, give quality time as a father. And then when he's to bed, that's when I lay down a little bit and I can finish a little bit some work and go to sleep. So we are doing what we're doing because we believe in what we're doing. We believe that this is our job, at least me, and I think you as well. We believe that we want to make the world a better place for our children. This is our
Yeah.
job. And
Yeah.
part of it is to call the bad guys out and
Hmm.
to tell the good guys who don't know what's going on, guys, don't get cheated by these guys. This is the truth. That's what's happening here. And we don't have time. You compare us to some TikTokers who's 16 hours living in the basement of his parents, and he just have all day long to go to protests, demonstrations, write stupid vlogs. It's
Yeah.
a different game.
Yeah.
It's a different league.
Man, that's
Yeah.
awesome. So real quick here, because we'll probably have to wrap this up. People will fall asleep at this point of the interview. No,
Yeah.
I'm joking, but no, I think we've covered some important, subject matters that will hopefully empower people with knowledge and understanding, about who you are, who I am a little bit as well, and in our cause that we're fighting for, what these social platforms are for, that we're using them for. It's not to get my name out there. It's not to get recognition. I don't need to feel, Timmy's happy, he got, a participation medal. Like, dude, like all the medals I got as a kid was because I actually beat all the other dudes to get
Yeah.
the medal.
Yeah. Same.
There is no like, we all get a medal. Like nobody cares about that. You know, like you said, we care about the future of our children, the future of where they're going to grow up in. We fought for that future, literally fought for it, put our skin in the game.
Lost
And
friends and brothers to it. Yeah.
yep, yep. And in this war as well, unfortunately. So one of the things I wanted to ask you about is when you started covering and putting your neck out on the line here, which you shared so beautifully, um, you ended up inviting one of the top influencers, or however you want to call it, to Israel, talking about, you know, funny colored hairs and whatnot. Can you can you
Pizza
can,
girl.
Pizza Girl, can you share about that? Because actually, I started following her because of you. Because I
Oh,
saw,
really?
yeah,
Wow, what a compliment. Yeah, she
yeah,
is like much more famous than me, but
yeah. I
but
mean,
yeah,
because
that's
I didn't know her beforehand. Honestly, I didn't know her. I didn't follow her, and then I saw like how she. What drew me to her was that she was connecting with a real Israeli person.
hmm
And I knew that the fact that you were, it seemed like you guys were, your family was hosting her, and I was like, okay, so this is like a person who's got their, like we're talking about, your skin in the game here. They're not just from their armchair in California. Let me tell you all about this, you know. And it's like, oh, geez, you know, like, wow, here we go, another person that thinks they know everything about the world, you know.
Yeah.
And I thought that was cool. So can you tell me how that came about? Because I think, you know, you were very key in getting real, um, you know, getting her to get a real experience and all that. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so that was a cool story. That happened so spontaneous, basically. I also got to know see her through social media, you know, because she's not Jewish and she started bravely speaking. Her name is Caroline, and she
Yeah.
started bravely speaking on behalf of women and women's right and Israelis and Jews and why should you hate, you know? And she's a lovely person who really is trying to do good.
Mhm.
And one day I get a message on my phone from this new rising media company called Rova, and they came and asked me, dude, do you know any ethnical food places that are not Jewish necessarily? Because we want to make this show with Caroline coming to Israel, interviewing people who are not Jews, making food and talking about food, not about politics. And I said, like, yeah, my mom, she makes the great food, and she's very ethnic. And
Yeah.
but she lives in a lot. And when do you want to do that tomorrow? They said, no, we will be there. I said, are you guys serious? Yeah, we'll change our schedule. We'll be there tomorrow to meet your mom. Will your mom be able? So I was like, oh, that went really fast. Went to
Yeah.
my mom, I'm gonna have a pink-haired girl from LA or Malibu coming tomorrow. Is that, yeah, of course, Mansoor ibn Tfaddal, all your friends can come, I'll make them food. I said, okay, but
Yeah.
we gotta make Drew's food. I said, don't worry, I'll get the taboon. We had now she already packed her taboon in the village.
Yeah.
So she contacted a Muslim Bedouin friend, told her, listen, I'm gonna have this family. Can you bring me this taboon? We're gonna talk about it. Yeah, of course. They brought her to the taboon. It's like this
Yeah.
oven.
Yeah.
And then she got there in the morning, and in the house, it was so random. And I was like, okay, I mean, I've been seeing you on Instagram and now you're in my house
Yeah.
and here's my mom. And then I just decided I'm gonna let the masters stay at work here. Both of them are foodie gurus. Like they know how to make good food. So I'm
Yeah.
just gonna translate and sit behind and let them have a conversation.
Yeah.
And it was just a beautiful conversation um, where they were talking about food and talking about life and talking about the importance of like diversity and through the aspect of food in Israel, Arab food, Christian food, American food, whatever,
Mhm.
Jewish food. So yeah, that was how it was so spontaneous. Just
That's
when I said
amazing.
that. But the Druze are known for hospitality, and that's something I think that you probably know. You know, we're known for
100%.
our houses are always open. If you come to a Druze house, doesn't matter when, they're gonna open the house for you. They're gonna give you food. They're gonna give you tea. They're gonna treat you like you are the most important person in the world. If they know you or don't know you, that's part of their. It's part of their I would call religion and just culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was just a cool experience.
So right, and then around that time too is when you start to really go on the offense here with social media and then also visiting. You mentioned also that you had visited, was it Be'eri? Was that right?
Visited, yeah. I decided that I'm gonna take my trip in Israel and bring the best that I can to debunk the claims that it's an apartheid and to
Mm,
debunk the claims that Hamas is the freedom fighters. So I went and I got a special permit with some group to go visit Beirut when Beirut was closed already,
hmm.
to go and film there. I gave someone to film with my camera and I spoke for like an hour, but then the audio was off.
Yeah.
So I have everything muted. But I was able to go and see the massacre and destruction of just innocent people that were trying to live their life. And in one morning, got the darkest form of modern Nazism, which is radical
Mm,
Islam,
yeah.
going in their houses and just butchering and killing everyone and everything. You can see the bullet holes, you can see blood stains, you can see shot teddy bears. One of the pictures, I was a Little Prince book, which is the book that I read to my kids. He was there and had a bullet hole in it,
Mm,
and you know that book was probably read to some kind of a little girl or a kid.
mm,
And now these people went to that family and just killed them all or kidnapped them. So I got to see that, and then I went to the Nova Festival to see, where the massacre of all the people dancing happened with my own eyes.
mm.
And then when I got to Elat, to my family, I just randomly started interviewing taxi drivers when I went with my mom to do errands, sidurim. She needed
Yeah, yeah.
help shopping, I don't know what. So, and then I just asked the taxi driver, what do you think about Arabs, Druze, I don't know what. And just to show, because there's nothing more real about Israel than taxi drivers. They're
Yep.
like the most, they'll tell you that, like in your face, just to show how safe is Israel for Arabs. My mom is super religious. She
Yeah.
is full on religious, and she's one of the most respected women in the Jewish town that we live in.
Yeah.
Everybody helps her. Everybody stands beside her. The mayor of the city comes to our house every month, almost just to meet her, pay respect, and etc. So I decided to document that as much as I can, so I can help show um, debunk the lies of the world. But the problem is, that we're not reaching enough people. I feel like we're trying to reach, these students' age groups that are being lied to, but it's very hard to reach them because the algorithm is going to show them what they want to see and
Mm,
not necessarily show them real Israel talking about what's happening. But we're trying.
yeah.
We're going to keep on trying.
Well, I think you're doing a really good job, and I think you're being able to bring a very relevant um, perspective to you know to the people around the world that is judging Israel, that is making all these crazy claims, and just showcasing, like you said, in the most real way, and that's why your content is unique. That's why it's impacting people, because I think anybody anybody who's going to listen to this conversation that we're having, if you have just a small bit of common sense, okay, just a small bit of common sense. You don't have to be a genius. You don't have to be an expert in Islam or the Druze religion or the Jewish or the all the Christian, religions here or what have you that we have swirling around in the Middle East. You don't have to be an expert in the cultures, the languages, or anything, or the archaeology or whatever. Just some common sense, and listen to what we're saying, and listen to what a lot of Looney Tunes out there that are saying, and people like Tucker Carlson, okay, who's used to be a
I'm
guy
very
that.
disappointed with him. I've seen after the Putin interview, I didn't know too much about it, but after the Putin interview, I felt like he was almost doing PR for the guy. And then this
Tell me about
interview,
it. Tell me
yeah,
about
I'm
it.
gonna
It's like he, I used to actually like what he had to say, and it seemed
yeah.
like ever since he went independent and left Fox, it's like he's gone off the rails. Is
Ameri- Americans try to politicalize everything
yeah, yeah,
through their own political goggles. And
yeah,
they try to impose it on the world. It's like a left or right wing. Israelis left wing and right wing is different than America's left wing and right wing.
100%, 100%.
100%. Oh, Israel's left wing is probably more similar to America's moderate right wing in some aspects, and then the other way around. It's like completely different ball games.
Yeah,
And they try to impose their politics about gender ideology, about Russia politics on the world, but you need to see things as they are or try to understand them, not to come and try to impose your politics. I think he was doing that.
exactly. And
Off the rail.
that's what he did with this when he interviewed this priest in Bethlehem, because really what his main point was is that, you know, when America was fighting in Afghanistan and in this country and that country, that it was always the minority Christians that kept getting hit the hardest. And so I'm just trying to make my voice heard for these minorities, right? Like I'm just trying to speak out as a, because I'm understanding also that he's himself is also a Christian. So it's like, you
Yeah.
know, I'm just raising this, you know. And by the way, it's like, first of all, if anybody has been trying to fight for the Christian minorities and how they're being attacked, it's people like me, where,
Yeah.
you know, I have good relationships with Christian Arabs in Bethlehem, in Nazareth, and I have tried to get their voice out on how they have been forcefully moved out from those traditionally Christian cities that today are predominant Muslim cities, because the Islamic community has come in, and the Muslim community will even use the best Christian schools to go to, and then those
Mm.
schools get flooded with, you know, an extreme number of Muslim students instead of Christian students, and so on. So the you get what I'm saying? It's like very common of what happens with aggressive Islamic agenda that just comes in and takes over everything, even the good things that the other minority group now is now
Yeah.
become minority is bringing to the table. So it's like everything becomes ruined basically,
Yeah.
and so they tell me about their struggles, but the problem is I can't get them on video. I can't get them like on this conversation you and I are having, because they know, and their biggest fear is that they speak on camera, and I know that this is part of the problem why the Bethlehem Muslim community and the Nazareth Muslim community doesn't speak out against these idiots that
That's where
this
the
guy
apartheid really is in
is, because
Palestine.
of fear,
People are not willing to speak there because they fear for their
their
life.
fear for their life. Exactly.
And to add more to your point, and sorry for cutting in, but
No,
Israel
yeah,
is the only nation in the Middle East where you have in Jerusalem, the capital of the Jews. Jerusalem is a Hebrew name, Yerushalayim. You know, it's a Hebrew city. It's the holiest Hebrew city for the Jews. And on that city, you have the Muslims building their Temple Mount, their Aqsa, on top of the Jewish holiest place.
yeah,
And you have next door to them the Christians having their biggest churches on the ground of the Jewish people. And if you go there, you see it's the cleanest, most preserved places, highly respected. The Israel government even supports them with money. So Israel is allowing other religious groups to have their own holy places on top of the Jewish holy places, because the Jews were there before them. Everywhere you dig in Jerusalem under, you'll find the history of David, the King Solomon, and other Jewish, prophets, and I don't know what, all the way to Abraham.
yeah,
So the Jews have welcomed Christians and Muslims into their country, and let them build their holy places on top of Jewish holy places. Show me one Muslim country, one in the world that will let that happen. They will tear it down.
yeah,
ISIS did that big time. They just teared and destroyed every Christian symbol that they can find. And if they will allow the Christians to have a little bit of peace, the Jews definitely not. They'll throw them or kill them. That's all the Jews left. But if they'll allow the Christians to have a little bit, it'll be so regulated and so kind of held under gunpoint, basically.
yeah,
So what that interview with Tucker Carlson, I'm sorry to say, that was BS. That was
yeah,
BS. That guy is
yeah.
either completely delusional or lying. Israel is the best place for Arabs in the Middle East. Christians, Jews, Arabs, Druze, Muslims,
Yeah.
you name it. Every ethnicity. Israel is the best place for Arabs in the Middle East. Point.
But I like the way you pointed out, though, is that the Westerners have a tendency to impose their worldview
Mm-hmm.
on what's happening in the Middle East. I'll give you another example actually of this. So Tucker Carlson, I believe, did that, and maybe that's his, to give him some credit to his extreme ignorance. Maybe that's his flaw, is in how he views things as a Westerner and doesn't see them for what they are.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give him a small break,
Mm-hmm.
but you got to do better. You got to do better when you're going to go out on national television and you're going to slam Israel on the mistreatment of Christians, and you're concerned that they're going to be slaughtered in the Gaza conflict and be targeted by who? By the IDF? I mean, are you out of your mind? Like, we don't even target the terrorist families that are, you know, that if anybody should be targeted, right? But now you're gonna, like, so we're specifically going to waste our time now with a bunch of minority ethnic groups. And how many Christians are in Gaza, first of all, right? Like, any case, it's just the insanity. But another example of that,
In Gaza, there's barely any. In Gaza, there's barely any. They were killed.
yeah,
You know,
exactly.
in the
So
West
another,
Bank, the more, but they're living under a very repressed regime.
yeah.
They won't speak their minds.
So another example I was thinking of, that is comparable to that. Um, I'm trying to remember. I just lost the thought of it. I had it in my mind and I just lost it.
Ah,
Um, but there's plenty of examples where I've seen. Oh yeah. So here's a good example. I just thought of it now. It came back to me. So I went on a tour many years ago in 2012, with social media influencers and people that work for the media and whatever. That it was all these kind of people, and we had it was talking about the Judea, Samaria, or West Bank, and or disputed territories, right? Using all these nice words for the same area.
yeah.
It's like, okay, so we heard people from the far left, people from the far right, and everyone in between on this issue. We had politicians, we had, this doctor and that doctor and whatever. And I remember we met women from, what is it? Women Against Checkpoints, or however they're called, this organization, uh,
Watch.
women Checkpoint Watch or something. Yeah. Any case, it was these, like a feminist North American.
I'm sorry to say, this vile organization when I was in the army. I met them.
Yeah. So basically, here's what I gathered from listening to them, because I asked them some very pointed questions and I got very stupid answers. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you an example. So these ladies took us to all these checkpoints, and see this checkpoint, how this is a problem because, and they give you all the reasons. And I'm like, okay. And then I'd ask a simple question, okay? Because I'm like, look, I'm not pro checkpoints, okay? Nobody's pro checkpoints. Nobody wants these stupid checkpoints, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
But I am pro security and safety. So if this
Yeah.
checkpoint serves a purpose, then great. If it doesn't, good. Yeah, let's disband it. And I know that the soldiers, the manpower in the IDF is already stretched thin. So if there's anywhere where we can get rid of another mission, sure, let's do it.
These ones are one of the hardest things, also mentally and morally,
Yeah,
for soldiers. It's have a toll on them. I agree. It's
exactly.
difficult.
Exactly. So it's like, look, I would agree if you would agree, right? But
Mm-hmm.
that's not the case. The case is that this is a Western-minded woman who made Aliyah, who has a North American worldview, and she made this claim, for example, and says, well, the checkpoint, you have, some Palestinian child who ran away from home, and they took a knife so that they could get caught by the soldiers, so that they could study for their tests while sitting in prison, because back home, Timmy,
My,
or Muhammad, but Timmy gets beat up and by daddy or whatever, and it's a complicated situation, and they purposely wanted to get captured, and that's why they carried this knife. And they're telling me, like, these are the people they interviewed, and I'm looking at myself and I go, okay. And then I asked her a question. I said, I have a question for you, because I wanted to expose her stupidity, and I'm like, you're looking at this as like a North American. First of all, in Muslim cultures, there aren't runaways. You don't run away from home. You run away from home, you're excommunicated from home. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
You're
It's very different than
you don't
the
you're
emo kid
right.
away from home, you know, in New
Yeah.
York.
Yeah,
Different.
you run away, you're basically you turn your back on your family and good luck coming back home, right? So
Hmm.
I'm like, culturally, this doesn't add up to me. But okay, I'm following with your weird North American spin on this, no problem. And I said, so I have a question for you. Statistically, I'm just curious because you said you met and sat down with many of these kids who fell under that category. In other words, they were not terrorists, right? They just wanted to get, study time in a prison cell.
I've stopped so many terrorists on these checkpoints.
So I asked her,
Children and adults, like, they have no idea what they're talking about.
and then I asked her, I said, how many of those were male and how many of them were female? Plus minus. Now you get where I'm going with this, right?
Yeah.
Because the answer is real simple. Most of them are going to be male, right?
Hmm.
How many of those young girls are going to be young girls? Basically, zero.
Hmm.
And she didn't answer my question. I asked her 3 times and she said, I don't know. I don't remember. Don't remember. I mean, I remember her answers even, okay, till today. This was years ago, 2012, okay? And I still remember these stupid answers she gave me. I don't remember. I don't know. I met a lot of them. It's hard to tell. And I'm going, wow. It's a simple question, right? If I were to ask you how many of all these, in your work and that you see coming in every day at your work site, let's say you're a security guard at a work facility, how many of the work people coming in every day are male and how many of them are female, plus minus, right? And you've been working there for 5 years. You
Hmm.
could tell me more or less, oh, I think this office has about 60%
No one
female.
asked me to be accurate also. You just
And
roughly estimate.
yeah, rough estimate. It's actually majority women. Oh, okay, cool, interesting, right? It's a simple question. Why don't you answer a simple question? Because you know where I'm leading with this. I'm leading to
There's
the fact that you're full of crap
yeah.
and that basically the majority of them are males and they're probably fighting age males and they just got caught. It could also just be that. Why does it have to be Timmy that runs away from home and doesn't get along with mommy and daddy and they just want to be a straight A student? Why do you have to portray everything in this way that it can't be just what it is, that he just was a terrorist who failed and cowered out, got cold feet, and God
Yeah.
bless him for getting cold feet and now paying the penalty of sitting in prison, getting a small penalty and not getting either death by a soldier having to stop him, right? Or security
Hmm.
personnel, and
Hmm.
or you're murdering now murdered a bunch of people, innocent people, and that blood is on your hands. That could have been
Yeah.
the outcome if little Timmy, who ran away from home, accomplished their mission, right?
Got brainwashed in a local mosque.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, no. The level of ignorance, the thing is with radical Muslim, especially young men, they became experts in deceiving European and American women.
Yeah. Yeah.
Became experts in that. I've seen it so many times. They became expert in playing the victim card. They became experts in, pointing out that Israel is the bad guy. And these women, they fall for them over and over. Oh, yeah, he's just trying to reach his family. He's just trying to work. And if they would just not stop trying to murder people, things will be okay. It's that simple.
Legit.
And because I speak Arabic, I hear what they're saying here in Europe. Even I hear how they're referring to the European people,
Hmm.
and I can't warn them because a lot of them will just not talk to me if I come and tell them because they think my views are radical for pointing out the truth. They're
Right.
telling guys be careful. They're trying to literally infiltrate your society and bring it down. You won't be
Mm.
able to walk down the streets of Germany and buy Brötchen in the morning because you won't feel safe buying bread from the bakery because you're gonna have Sharia law implemented in your streets if you don't wake up.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's many of them are just lying to themselves. They don't want to face the reality that they were on the wrong side all the time, and then have to deal with that shaken identity that they have, the political identity to be shaken to the ground.
Mm.
But it's just a bunch of nonsense. These checkpoints are one of the hardest places. I was a commander over checkpoint. I was a commander over special operations and over checkpoints. And checkpoints was the hardest job. harder than being special forces. And the reason it was the hardest, because you'll see a young Israeli female soldier or male having to, on a daily basis, question everyone from elderly to young women, men, children, and treat everyone with suspicion because, like I said, they've used children to do suicide bombs, they've used pregnant women, etc. So sometimes you'll be telling, sorry, I don't believe you. You need to give me a better story. Now you're 18 years old telling an older man, and maybe, maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong, but it's just a hard place to be in.
Yeah.
But this is the reality. Take away that checkpoint, and you will have again intifada revolution happening in Israel, where we're going to have dead bodies everywhere. Why do you think all the Muslim countries around Gaza don't want Gazans? A lot of people don't understand that. The reason they don't want Gazans entering, because they know that Gaza has been contaminated by the radical Muslim Brotherhood ideology, and that ideology harbors terrorism, and that ideology harbors fanatic people. That ideology is contagious like cancer. And
Yeah.
they know that if they would let people from Gaza, I'm getting a phone call every second here. They know that if they will get people from Gaza entering Egypt or Jordan or Lebanon, it will bring down their countries, just like happened in Iran. And they've already tried that. So the ideology of the Palestinians, the radical ideology that they allowed themselves to be in for the last generation, indoctrinating the whole nation, is super, super problematic. And that's why the Arabs who know about this know this is dangerous. So then come this, American Nicole or Karen and try to tell you, oh no, they're all innocent. Like, he have no idea what you're talking about. Go back to Walmart and give problems to the custom services there. Stay away from the Middle East. We don't need Karens here.
Yeah.
And woke
Yeah.
Nicoles. I'm sorry to say, no
Yeah.
disrespect to any Karen or Nicole that are nice. The idea is that they have no idea what's going on here.
Yeah.
This is so much beyond you. Just stay out of it.
And I think that's why it's important to hear voices like yours, because you understand the mentality. You grew up here, the same with me, but again, I'm different because it's easy to paint me as and to write me off as this Western ignorant, you don't know what you're talking about, dude. And I'm like, well, you know, I'll take it where I grew up, and you tell me how ignorant I am. But really, this has been such a pleasure to hear from you and to hear, your perspective as a Druze, because it's so unique, it's so different than most of the people that you're going to meet on a daily basis. Because again, most of the Druze live in the north of Israel, and rarely do you get to meet them unless you work in different jobs where they're in that part of the workforce. And so I think it's yeah, I mean, in my work that I do, and plus also in the military work and stuff, I get to meet a lot of Druze in security and in the old city, in the policing and whatnot, and so but a lot of them are commuting. They're commuting to this area to fulfill those jobs. And I think it's a great community that is the salt of the earth here in Israel, and that have really contributed in such a beautiful way. And it's also a pure example, like you pointed out, that if all the Arabs living in Israel followed your example and the example of the Muslim Arabs and the Christian Arabs who line up with being a respectful citizen of the state of Israel, you get to enjoy all the benefits, and more so as a minority who is not Druze, because then you also don't have the responsibilities that the rest of the Israeli society has.
You don't have to pay the sacrifice. You just enjoy the benefits.
You enjoy the benefits, and I'm fine with that. It doesn't bother me. I know
No, it doesn't. Well,
a lot of people, it bothers them, right? It's like it's this double standard, and why do they get to get treated like a special part of the community? And it's the same with the ultra Orthodox here in Israel.
One of the best things that happened to me, sorry for cutting in, was to go serve my country. in the military or national service, because that gave me the opportunity to get to meet, as a Druze, Ethiopians,
Yeah.
to get to meet, Tel Avivi guys, to get to meet gay and straight people, to get to meet right-wing and left-wing people, Muslim, Christian, Arab. So it actually helped me get to meet more Israeli people from every socio-economical status and religion. So I benefited from it so much. I made friends for life. So anyone who doesn't do it, honestly, I think it's his loss. But
Yeah.
okay, they're very privileged that they don't need to do it and they still get all the benefits. But just to add one thing, I think that people don't understand sometimes, the similarity between Druze and Jews. One of the main point that I think is similar, both don't want to try to convert the world. They just want to be let to live their faith peacefully. The Druze, you cannot become Druze. Even they say, there's no sense. Be
That's true. Yeah,
whoever you
that's right.
want. I respect you as you are. I think you're on the right path. Good for you. The Jews are not missionaries. They're not trying to say, it's actually very difficult to become a Jew. It's just please let us practice our faith in our own way, in comparison to Islam, which have a clear goal to make the whole world Muslim. They even in the Quran, they divide the world to different categories: Dar al-Harb, Dar al-Salam, Dar al-Islam, which means the house of war and the house of Islam. And the house of war is anywhere that is not under Sharia law. And then you have jihad, which is the word for effort, for a struggle. They have the jihad to go, and they don't call it to conquer the world. They say futuh, which means to open the world. The world is in darkness because it doesn't know Islam, that is a light. So we are called by the Prophet to go and open the world into the light of Islam. So they don't even call it to conquer, although it's to conquer military-wise. So they come and say you have the jihad to do that. You can do it by the sword. You can do it by missionary work. You can do it by marrying. If you marry as a Muslim, all your wives become Muslims without even asking them, and they cannot change. And the children are born Muslim. If they're trying to change, you need to kill them. So there's no even question there. So
Wow.
in the world of Islam, it's clearly called to go and dominate the world. Now, there is Muslims who are not radical, who are becoming modernized, who say, okay, guys, even Christianity and Judaism have some crazy, batshit crazy parts in the past.
Sure. Sure.
And it doesn't fit to today's, rules. Like Joshua ben Nun, was called to go into the land and kill everything here, from it to cleanse this land. So that was in the biblical time. There was a lot of crazy stuff that the church done crazy stuff during the Crusades. So every religion had their days of war and of darkness and going out of it, and they had a beautiful message, but there was a lot of things here and there that you say I can't really agree with. But the thing is, they all separated religion from state. Islam never did and can't. So that's why it's quite different. So I would recommend, like you said, be like the Jews, which completely tolerate everyone. Be like the Jews, which completely tolerate everyone. Like the Jews and the Druze, they would literally say, be whoever you want. You want to be gay? Be gay. You want to be Krishna? Be Krishna. Live and let live. If the Islam will start doing that, you will have peace in the Middle East now. If Palestinians start doing that, the war will be finished today.
100%.
But it's not. It's religious, and it's radical religion.
Yeah.
And that's it. Sorry for cutting over, but
no, that's great. I think that's great. And you just gave, again, more good, important meat for people to think about, and again, like I said here in the beginning too, criticize anything that we're saying here, correct us, but don't, in the comments section, don't give me a link to YouTube. That is not information. That is not, send me a link to a quote from the Quran that basically proved that what you just said was a bunch of nonsense, or what I just said is a bunch of nonsense, facts. And if you don't have any facts to argue down what we just, presented here, then at least try to educate yourself and go, maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong. Let me look into it. And not just make a knee-jerk reaction because I look at the guy, what he looks like, or how he sounds, or whatever. All that's irrelevant. The question is the facts of what we just brought here facts, or is it total nonsense?
Yeah.
And that's what this platform is for. It's to bring to bring different perspectives and ideas to the table here, but it's to bring it from the real people that are living out the subject matter that we're talking about here. And you lived it out as a Druze here in the land of Israel. Um, through your family lineage for the 1,000 years plus that your family's lived here and been persecuted by Muslims. And from your personal family experience that when Israel had founded itself, rebirthed in 1948, that it was the Druze and all the other minority groups in Israel that benefited from freedom of religion for the first time in
Yeah.
probably hundreds of years, right? Under the
Thousand.
Ottoman Empire, you didn't have it.
In the
Under
last,
the,
it's the
yeah,
first time in the last 1,000 years that this place had freedom of religion. First
and,
time.
and peace and quiet as
Yes.
far as that's concerned. And, so just some food for thought, you know what I mean? Just some food for thought that if what you're saying is true and you can look into that historically and read the history because it's out there. Everything we just said here, it's not some
Yeah.
secret, in some secret whatever book somewhere and you can't find
Oh.
it. You can find it. It's there. It's just a matter of do you really
I
care
have
to
relatives in
look into it?
Israel. I have relatives. I know people living in Palestine. I have relatives in Syria, in Lebanon. I know people living in Jordan. I know the Middle East very well. And I know talking to these people what a good life we have as Arabs in Israel, And then I come and I say that, and people call me, oh, you're a Zionist.
Yeah.
You have no idea.
A Zionist.
They don't know what a Zionist means even. They just throw that word.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, brother, I really appreciate it. You've really been a really good voice here.
Thank you.
And so anything that you want to finish with and let people know where they can find you,
Hmm.
etc. What are you up to? What's your
But what am I up to? When I'm not raising my kids,
yeah.
uh, I am, or sometimes while I'm doing that, I'm starting my YouTube channel and podcast channel. So if you want to go and visit that and show some support there, as content creator, how important it is, especially now when we're getting so much hate, to actually get the good guys also, click the like and the subscribe and make and let our voice get out there. So that would be great. And I would like to finish, as a father, I think,
Yeah.
really, everything aside, the way for peace is teach your children to love life, teach your children to accept the other. So when your kid end up being after college, going to a trip in Thailand and he meets my kid, they wouldn't care if he's Jew, Christian, Arab, Muslim, atheist. They wouldn't care if he's white, black, or Asian. They will just care who the person is.
Hmm.
Is he intelligent? Is he stupid? Is he saying nice things? Is he a bully or is he someone that helps other? And I think if more parents will do that, we will be able to flip a generation and have peace,
Hmm.
And I think if the people who are not doing that will be demanded to do it or be put to shame for not doing that. Hey, how are you raising your kids? How come you're teaching them that that's wrong? Then you'll start seeing a change there. But as long as you ignore them,
Hmm.
you're just going to have more and more children because our time we've done our life here and it's a great life and we have years ahead of us, but it's their generation. I feel like we're leaving them a very bad world,
Hmm.
the way that things are looking, a very anti-Semitic dark world.
Yeah.
And it's our responsibility, and I would like to encourage the parents, have your kids learn Arabic, have your kid in Israel, have
Hmm.
your kids meet Jews, Christian, Muslim friends, vice versa. It's much harder to hate who is different than you. And I really mean that because as a parent, I see it. I want my kid to meet so many people from different religions
Hmm.
because then he gets to know them as humans. And I think that this is our way forward. And if you ask me what am I like to end with, is that raise your kids better.
Spot on. I love it. Um, my kids are learning Arabic, by the way. Um, the all the ages are learning Arabic, and they're learning it from our supposed to be sworn enemy, from a Lebanese teacher.
Uh,
So they're also learning in my opinion, one of the better dialects of Arabic in the Middle East.
yeah,
They have a very unique and special dialect. And yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. And that's part of how I'm trying to raise my kids as well. We expose them to such a variety of different people groups that come here and that I engage with. And it's important for me to not teach them to look at the other as the other. And I've been very careful as a father who's been fighting also in this war in Gaza to not have, when I come back home and discuss whatever I've been through and answering their questions, that I don't answer it in a way that causes them to be hateful and hate when they hear the word Palestinian. Oh, those are bad people, right? I'm like, no,
yeah,
no, no. Like you need to understand. I tried to be very careful on how I educate my children and don't spread that trauma, because you and I have been in that trauma where we had to fight in armed conflict against a certain people group, a certain threat. And
mhm,
it's very difficult for us to look at that people group and to think of, oh, there's actually good people there.
yeah,
There's actually people don't want to kill me.
mhm,
And there's people there that I should have a dialogue with. And that's what I want to encourage with my children. And I love to hear you saying that as well as a father, that's what you're trying to pass on to your child. And hopefully the listeners that have been listening to this episode, that will be one of the most important things you walk away with. Not just all the information we just gave you here, but the information of be a good parent, help raise good children. And not, it's easier to build strong children than it is to fix broken ones, you know and let's stop breaking our kids, so to speak, with teaching them all of these prejudices and hatred and there's the other over there and this one over there and all the divisions
yeah,
that's happening in our society and through social media that is really using this platform to cause divide amongst us, when really we should be asking ourselves, what are the things that we can agree on? What are the things that we can come together on? And puts, if it's not a major difference, so to speak, right? If not a major issue, like, why do I have to bring it up? Why do I have to make an issue of it? Right?
yeah,
And it's so much easier for me to find the differences when I look at you and go, oh, he's different here, 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 here. That's easy. Can you find the things that we have in common? And I think that's what we've done also in this conversation. You know, here you
yeah,
grew up in a Druze home. I grew up in actually a Christian home, a Christian Zionist home. And then later in my life, I ended up going through Jewish conversion. And so it's like, we have all these differences and we can choose to look at each other from being different, but we can also choose to look at each other as human beings.
mm,
And I think that's much, much more important in today's society when there's so much trying to push us away from each other. Um,
th-
Brother, this has been great. You've been a great interviewee, and hopefully people will like, share, subscribe to your channel. We'll make sure to have all your information on the in the description below for people to follow you and to hopefully grow your channel. And because I know you're going to be doing some really cool things as you grow. You have a lot of great talent. You have a lot of great insight and a lot of light in you, because this world needs to hear some more of the light and to expel a lot of the darkness that's out there.
thank you.
Mansor, my brother, thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. It was my pleasure. Thanks for inviting.
Shalom.
Yeah, shalom.